Welcome to our mini application project about physical activity program for classroom and off-task behavior by Leslie and Sissy. So the research educational problem that we're thinking of is imagine being 5 years old and having to sit in a desk for a half of an hour or more listening to the teacher and quietly working. Believe it or not, that does happen in our classrooms today. Studies show that this can lead to a lack of focus and even disruptions within the classroom. A few studies have looked into the effectiveness of using frequent movement breaks within the class, but very few have focused on using the Go Noodle application specifically. Furthermore, kindergarten students are especially in need of frequent activity and movement, and so we're focusing on that population for our study. This is an investigation regarding the effectiveness of using Go Noodle, an exercise application for children, in reducing off-task behavior in a general education kindergarten classroom. The purpose of our research is to determine if implementing the Go Noodle application in kindergarten classrooms will result in decreased off-task behaviors. We're going to define off-task behaviors as not orienting to the task at hand, playing with given materials instead of using them to engage in the activity, and not following the directions given. We've seen that in all of our classes, I'm sure, not just kindergarten classes. So here is our question. To what degree can the use of Go Noodle, a computer-based exercise application, decrease off-task behavior in a kindergarten classroom setting? So how did we design our research to ensure its validity? Well, this study is going to be an example of a single subject multiple probe ABAB design. This is designed to exhibit the validity of the intervention. Our participants are going to be 2 kindergarten general education classes. In each class, there are 15 students for a total of 30 students. There are 18 girls and 12 boys. All participants were aged between 5 and 6 years old. And there were 6 of these students, 3 girls and 3 boys, who were selected specifically as target participants because they had reported off-task behavior by their teacher, and there was a lack of interest in physical activity. And those were students were going to be in the same intervention class. A questionnaire was used to select students' low interest in physical activity. And on the questionnaire, we asked, number 1, how often do you play outside? Number 2, how long do you play outside? Number 3, do you play any sports? And then students were rated on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being the lowest. In addition to that, we also used teacher observation to select students who were frequently off task. The setting of the study we have 2 kindergarten classrooms where students are going to be asked to wear a pedometer that will allow us to track their movement throughout the day. Students are required to go to homeroom where they're going to be assigned a pedometer to track their daily movement. One class is going to be used as the control classroom and the other will be used as an intervention. So what are our independent and dependent variables? Well, we know that the independent variable is going to influence change in the dependent variable. So our independent variable is using the Go Noodle application for 10 minutes a day. This will allow students to dance along with vigorous movements, and the instructions are provided by the application, and that will only be done in the intervention classroom. The dependent variable, what we want changed, is off-task behavior. So the experimenters are going to compare the off-task behavior during baseline and then to the Go Noodle phase within the intervention classroom. So how are we going to implement this? Well, number 1, 2 kindergarten classrooms are chosen. Number 2, One classroom is going to be business as usual, or our control group, and the other classroom will be the intervention classroom in which the Go Noodle intervention will be used. Each student will be given a pedometer in order to measure daily steps, so that's another layer of our experiment. Number 4, observation is going to be conducted in order to measure the number of off-task occurrences. As I stated earlier, we're defining that as not orienting to the task at hand, playing with given materials instead of using them to engage in the activity, and not following directions given. Observation will be conducted in both classrooms from 9:10 a.m. until 10:10 a.m., with the observers focusing on those off-task behaviors. Number 6, baseline data is going to be collected. In the intervention classroom, students will engage in the Go Noodle activity from 9:30 to 9:40 a.m. But during our baseline phase, we're just going to do business as usual. The control classroom, students will continue to engage in the normal routine. And daily number of steps will be measured and recorded for all students in both classrooms. But during the baseline, both intervention and control classes will just be business as usual. There will be no intervention during baseline. Baseline will be collected for 1 week. Number 7, step 7, Go Noodle is implemented in the intervention class only. During week 2, data will be collected in both classes for off-task behaviors. Week 3, we'll return to baseline. No intervention will be given in either class, and data will be collected for off-task behaviors. In week 4, we're going to return to the intervention Go Noodle only in the intervention class. The control class will be business as usual. Results will be recorded and displayed visually for analysis. How are we going to check validity and reliability? Well, teachers are selecting students based on their recurring off-task behaviors as per teacher observation, and also we're using that questionnaire to identify students who are not very physically active. 2 observers will be trained to assess off-task behavior and on-task behavior, and we're going to be focused on the off-task behavior for this experiment. Observers will be trained to use partial recording sampling to track targeted off-task behaviors. They'll be using a 10-second interval, and each observer will record their observations separately to ensure validity and reliability of the study. An inter-observer agreement of at least 90% must be attained for data to be considered valid. So our data analysis plan. The data will be displayed for visual analysis for each classroom. The occurrence of off-task behaviors will be graphed for each session during each phase. Baseline, intervention, baseline, intervention for the intervention classroom. For the control classroom, it will be a baseline occurrence of the off-task behavior. A separate graph will be used to display the total number of steps per classroom per day. Our rationale for this study: exercise can generally be a significant factor in the growth, development, and the health of children and adolescents. The effects of physical activity regimens on comprehensive growth shown by quantitative and qualitative changes. The significance of physical activity in controlling body weight and maintaining a healthy balance for growing children is essential. Because children and adolescents spend much of their time at school, the school environment could present an excellent opportunity for youth to be physically active. Over the years, though, a lot of schools have faced budgetary cuts and increasing pressure on teachers to improve academic achievement scores, and therefore many opportunities for physical activity are being reduced or eliminated, unfortunately. Some studies have shown that regularly scheduled activity breaks might help to reduce disruptive behavior. However, few studies have focused on how the specific app, Go Noodle, might reduce off-task behavior in kindergarten students, and that is the rationale for what we're doing. Looking back and reflecting, it's become clear to both my partner Leslie and I that it takes a lot to design a valid and reliable study. You must thoroughly review the existing studies that are related to your topic of interest, and that can be very time-consuming, but it does allow the researchers to ensure they're conducting a socially valid, socially significant study. Furthermore, you have to put so much thought and effort into the selection of participants to ensure that your experiment is relating to the specific population that you have questions about. You have to choose an appropriate design of the study to increase the validity of your results. The implementation procedures must be carried out with great fidelity to ensure that all of the conditions are constant except for the intervention that you're studying. Your data collection has to be reliable. We have to have good inter-observer agreement. And once you have collected your data, you need to ensure that the visual analysis is effective for this treatment. You want to check the trends, you want to check the rates, and ensure that you're doing it correctly. These are our references that we used for our mini application project. Thank you.